Arsenal are through to the quarter-final of the League Cup and find themselves now facing a trip to Burnley, where they hope to secure yet more points in the race for the title, opening up a bigger gap to their title rivals City and Liverpool. This is today's Arsenal News Show special. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is indeed our Arsenal News Show. I'm currently at Arsenal Press Conference Towers, if you like. This is why this is going out for you as a pre-recorded episode, because we have an early press conference on Friday. I'm joined by certainly someone I expect to see there tomorrow, Ed Aarons from The Guardian. How you doing, mate? You good, you well?
Very good, thanks. Yeah, I will be there bright and early.
Absolutely. And Art de Roche from The Athletic, are you joining us tomorrow morning?
I'm not tomorrow morning. I might be somewhere else bright and early, but I'll keep that to myself for now.
He's teasing. We've got a potential Athletic feature maybe coming up. We'll see.
Maybe.
We'll see. How are you both? Good, you well, Ed? Things been good from the other nights? Massive win for you over Liverpool, of course.
Yeah, very pleased to see that. From obviously I was at the Emirates for the Arsenal game, but yeah, they've got an amazing record against Liverpool, third one of the season already, and it's still October. So obviously Oliver Glasner's worked out to play against them, but I think Arsenal fans would just be worried that he might work out how to play against them. But obviously we're going to talk about this. It's not going to be straightforward for Palace in that game to try and get a bit of revenge for the same tie that happened last year in the quarterfinal.
Indeed, it is weird how that's worked its way to 2 seasons in a row, the exact same tie in the quarterfinal. And Art, of course, you were with us as well on Thursday to witness the rather impressive performance. I think maybe surprising for some people, considering 10 changes were made from the team that played against Crystal Palace at the weekend. What did you make of Mikel's selection and the subsequent performance as well?
Yeah, I think it was a bit of a slow burn, but you could probably expect that with the amount of changes that you mentioned. 10. I think Eze was the only starter from the weekend. I think the midfield you could see needed a bit of time to get used to playing with each other, both with and without the ball. But obviously, we'll probably talk about it a bit more, but Max Dowman stood out from the first few minutes, really. Really nice kind of confidence, I think he showed against a real, I guess, Premier League defender in De Kuiper. Gave him a real tough time all night. But then other people shone. I thought Ethan Nwaneri really grew into the game nicely, took his goal really well. And Mosquera, again, what a player. I mean, for them to find him for the price they did in the summer, I think it's an unbelievable find. So yeah, I think across the board, most of the players can be fairly happy with their performance from last night.
Yeah, I thought his centre-back partner as well, Pierre Nketiah, was also really good. And it's amazing to think that you've got a partnership like Saliba and Gabriel, and then you can swap both of them out and bring Mosquera and Nketiah, and it is getting to the borderlines of silliness, really, the depth that is available to Arsenal. Ed, Art alluded there to Max Dowman, his performance. Of course, you've got a piece in the Guardian at the moment specifically relating to Max and kind of his lineage, Arsenal lineage to Billericay Town. So do you want to give the listeners a little bit of context to that and why they should go and give it a read?
Yeah, well, thanks for giving it a plug. But yeah, it's a piece I've had, been working on for all of us. We've known about Dowman, and I'm sure all the Arsenal fans listening have heard about him for quite a long time, which is, you think about it, it's quite unusual, really, like for a guy who's, most people, I think, when he was called up to train with the first team last year, when he turned 14, that was sort of when the name like first came upon, unless you're really devoted to the Arsenal youth, Hale End Academy and the youth teams. But yeah, so since then, obviously been trying to find out a bit more about him and spoke to some people from his hometown about, how he started out at the Billericay Town. And it's a club that's really close to the family by the sounds of things. That his dad was even a director of the club at one point, but it was also before that heavily involved with the youth team and coached his older brother there. And that's when Max started coming down and that's where Arsenal spotted him, and he stayed there for a few years. A couple of his teammates as well were scouted by Arsenal and still at the club, and it really is just an amazing success story for for Arsenal to have like a kid like that is so clearly ready for that level, but is that age is. I mean, it's like it's a sort of, it sounds like a freak thing that he's not. It's just a sort of evolution of things. You're looking at sort of somebody like Lamine Yamal, what he did last year when he was a bit older than Max is now, but it's kind of like you don't want to put a ceiling on the possibility. I think Mikel Arteta's in a very difficult position because he knows the talent he's got on his hands, but he's got to balance that out. So it's going to be a really interesting next few months, I think. How they play it, because he looks like it's not just playing it just to give a young guy a chance. He's genuinely looks like a threat, and it was for a lot of the game. Arsenal's probably most creative player, wasn't he, on Wednesday?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Art said about De Kuyper, and I thought Buscaglia as well. They played with that back five with De Kuyper and Buscaglia on the left, and they got to a stage where they were basically just kicking him, kicking a 15-year-old winger. Because
when I saw him when I saw him in the FA Youth Cup last year, a few of us were there as well. I think you were there as well. But
yeah,
he was doing that. He was very a bit younger, maybe he was 9 months younger or so. But he was playing against kids who were 3 years older than him, so that's quite a big gap anyway. And he was just doing that to them as well. And it was like but actually the progression from doing that at the youth level to doing it against a pretty strong Brighton team as well. There wasn't they made a few changes, but not the whole team. That is seriously incredible.
Yeah, I remember when Simon Collins went up to Arteta after one of the presses to mention about the England-Spain game, and how he just gave the Spanish left back an absolutely torrid time. And Arteta mentioned he absolutely should have, been sent off after like 30 minutes, I think he said. And it is just stunning to see, in particular in that game, the influence of Hale End, because I know you're very keenly tuned into the youth side of things. And Andre Harriman Anous, of course, made his debut as well. I think we were discussing it, Ed, as well at half time, the idea of where you can kind of see two levels of young talent, where Dauman's kind of this confident kid who just nothing phases him at all. He'll just take anyone on. And it did feel like maybe Andre was playing a little bit with a level of consciousness about not wanting to make a mistake and maybe not driving in the way that maybe Dauman would in certain moments. But what did you make of the 17-year-old's debut?
Yeah, I guess what I liked the most was his movement off the ball. So those runs into the channels, I thought he did really well throughout the game. And I think it's a good point on, I guess, somebody's confidence, but not in a bad way, just in terms of looking at how he behaved when he got the ball. So when he got those passes into the channels in the first half, he always seemed to kind of look for the pass. But then in the second half, he was more bold and he took the shot on, and that led to Saka's goal. Obviously, I would have loved it if he got the goal himself. But I think you saw he was another one who really grew into the game. And I think what was also a nice thing that stood out was just how enthusiastic he seemed, even when he was pressing Jason Steele in goal. He really went for it. So yeah, I think over the course of his 70-80 minutes or so, you saw someone realizing, okay, I can play at this level with these guys, and hopefully it's not the last time we see him.
Yeah, I think that there is obvious potential there, and Arteta I think spoke really well about him after the game. And I liked the question from Jordan Davis where he spoke about the trust that he gave the players to carry on at half time, because Brighton were arguably the better side in the first half. Certainly they had the more threatening kind of positions on the field, and Arteta could have easily brought on some of his more senior players at half time, but he didn't. And Arsenal grew into the game into the second half, got their lead, and obviously the senior players that then came on helped to kind of win the game overall. But with it being now Friday, as this goes out, and looking ahead to Burnley, I kind of want to do look ahead more with a focus on the show. But before we go to the press conference and to Burnley as well, Ed, I want to get your reaction, of course, from a Palace perspective on the draw for the quarterfinal with Arsenal taking on Palace, because there is a really interesting kind of narrative about Palace's fixtures for this period as well. On the 11th of December, they play Shelbourne in the Conference League away from home. On the 14th, at the moment, the scheduling is that they play at home to Manchester City. Then 2 days after that is the scheduled game, if it indeed does go ahead on the 16th. It's not fully confirmed yet, but that's what it is down as at the moment against Arsenal at the Emirates. They then play KPS on the Thursday, 2 days after that. And then 3 days after that, they're away to Leeds. It's a stunning kind of conglomeration of fixtures with such congestion that it looked as if though surely one fixture would move, but it seems that none of them even can.
Yeah, they're the victims of their own success, sadly, which is not something we
For the record listeners, he texted me that earlier today. I just wanted to say
it. And also, I think it's something that just having a few chats today, that they've been the EFL have been sort of ready for this to happen, because it wasn't going to take much for this sort of thing to happen potentially, and it has, because all these fixtures in Europe, and it's the extra Champions League fixtures as well in the new year that really complicate.
Yeah, I think
but there have been a few suggestions. I don't know how feasible this is, but has been a few suggestions that like Christmas Eve could be an option, which is obviously a week later. But
I mean, from a fan perspective, there's nightmares in travel. Travel's never going to happen on Christmas Eve for so many fans. So I guess with the London game, it makes it easier.
Then it is, exactly. It's just as long as they keep the
overground
alive.
Relying on TFL is.
There's a lot of Arsenal fans that use that.
Yeah, it's very true, very true. Slight undertone of a dig there from Ed. But I think there was also, you could argue there's a midweek game in January as well. Arsenal are playing Liverpool at the start of January. I'm not sure who Palace have got that midweek, but you could argue maybe that fixture could get rearranged. Was the only kind of gap where else?
Yeah, I don't think there's any. I think in no prospect of them rearranging Premier League.
No. Palace away to Newcastle that midweek.
Yeah, it makes it even more.
So,
I mean, I think it's just something Palace are going to have to accept, and it's just the way that the Conference League is. They have these sort of 2 successive match weeks, which is weird, and because they miss and they don't have the ones after Christmas. But and also unfortunately from Palace's point of view, because they lost to Larnaca last week, they're probably going to need at least a result there's 2 games, so one of those games they're going to probably need to get a result in. So
do you feel like they could not deprioritize, is that the right word? But start to prioritize those around that, or because they're already in a quarter final, they'll see that as we're 4 games off another trophy.
I mean, Glasner he really doesn't want to take any competitions lightly. Every team, he's pushing the players very hard at the moment, and I think, especially by that time as well, is really when it's going to count, when it's going to hit them, because they're going to have so many games in their legs by then, and then have that coming up. I think Arsenal have got a very good chance. It's a shame actually. Talking about the last year's game, it was a really good game, wasn't it? Do you remember Palace were up at half time, and then Arsenal brought on the big guns and blew them away a bit. But it was it'd be good to see a rematch between them after last week's game. It was they were both a bit tired in that, I thought, but it'd be good to see them go, head to head when they're both fully at it, because be a good match.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it was before they played Arsenal. They might still be the case. I think Palace had the highest XG of any team from open play, and then they also had the highest XG from trailing positions going into that game against Arsenal as well. So it shows you the threat. And I mean, the interesting bit about the quarterfinal is it takes place at the moment, if we're assuming it's right in December. Arsenal could have back Kai Havertz, Noni Madueke, Martin Odegaard. These 3 could be back. We don't know about Gabriel Jesus' potential return. We were all speculating, weren't we, when he was left out of the Champions League squad entirely as to what that meant about his potential return date. But who knows? He could still in some way be involved. How do you feel like those 3, when they return, will kind of start to feature again into Arteta's plans?
Yeah, I think it just depends when Arteta visualizes each block of games. So I think these past couple of months have probably been quite not easy, but 7 games in each block, you can visualize how you're going to set up the team. And he did actually speak last season about how to kind of sequence games, where he'd basically maybe think of how certain teams set up and then think of a team for a few weeks. So you gain that consistency of playing style with the players. And I think what really kind of held him back from doing that last year was the suspensions and injuries. Whereas this year you've seen it a bit more with, I think Eze is a good example again, playing a bit more, I guess, right of center in the last few weeks, compared to just being an actual 10 like he played against Newcastle, for instance. And yeah, going into the December kind of weeks, the one that really intrigues me is Gabriel Jesus, actually, because I believe Mikel did say December was when he could come back.
I think he said he'll be. Yeah, I don't know if it was allusion to kind of like that's when he'll be training again with the boys. So that we imagine around that kind of time.
Yeah, and obviously last year, the Carabao Cup game against Crystal Palace, he was the main the main man. So he's in my thoughts quite a bit over the last couple of days, because I just feel like, I don't know, maybe not being around makes you a better player, but
Oh, it
obviously,
does. Yeah, 100%.
yeah,
The amount of times that
obviously.
Mesut Ozil wasn't playing for Arsenal, he became the most unbelievable player in the world because he
Yeah.
wasn't playing. But
But
yeah, go on.
when he
I,
when he got injured last year, it was at a really unfortunate time, and he had a real impact in those games against Crystal Palace and Brentford, actually. With Madueke, Erdegaard, I think it'll probably be at a point where hopefully they're already in some sort of rhythm. I think Madueke should hopefully be sooner than Erdegaard in terms of a return. So yeah, hopefully by that point, with the Champions League games as well, those guys will already be in some sort of rhythm.
Go on, Ed. I feel like you want
yeah,
to.
I was just going to say, I think you were spot on with Jesus, but also obviously Havertz, just to give like Gyökeres a bit of competition, but and a rest as well. I mean, he had a rest yesterday, good for him, but just sharpen him up a little bit. And he knows that the pressure's on, obviously, but to have another striker there is just so important. I think, especially when games are tight, just scoring from, struggle to score a bit. The only criticism really of Arsenal is struggling to score a little bit from open play. Sorry. And so having those guys, but Havertz and Jesus, if you have those three frontline strikers available going into the new year potentially, it's quite frightening for the others. You think about Liverpool last year, the options that they had, and potentially they still have that. But obviously they're in a lot of chaos at the moment, but it just makes such a difference in the run in that I think, particularly Havertz. We don't know about Jesus, how he's going to recover. I should say Havertz because he's had a serious injury, but he's got a few goals in the last few years. He's settled into the team and the rhythm and everything, and could be really important in the second half of the season.
One of the things I did want to focus on as well, and it's kind of around the narrative around Arsenal at the moment and how Arsenal have been discussed, particularly kind of alongside other sides like City and Liverpool. The differences depending upon kind of who you listen to and what outlets are speaking about it. And obviously, all the three of us being in this side of things makes it a little more interesting. But I know that you spoke to Miles Lewis Skelly after the game on Wednesday, and one of the things that I kind of picked out from the quotes was him talking about the pride that they have in in clean sheets. My brain's going set pieces straight away into clean sheets, and that kind of element of how much they want to protect the goal because they feel like if you're coming to Arsenal, you're not scoring. Like you were in the room with him when he was speaking about it. Did you kind of get that sense of the real attachment they've got to keeping that record clean?
Yeah, 100%. He phrased it really well. He said the players call it the Emirates our house. And he said we're not letting anything in our house. And I think that was a really good way to phrase it, because if you're looking at the way they do defend like that in a way where it's almost old school. You can't come here and take anything from us. And I think that approach, him and Timber really, I guess, show that in the best way possible, because they're not as tall as a Saliba, a Gabriel, a Mosquera even, but the way they defend, they're so solid. They've got a real base about them, and I just think they're rocks back there. So you can see how seriously they take it. Wednesday was another game where
No, it was yesterday when we were recording.
yeah. Wednesday was another game where I think even though they conceded shots on target, you saw as the game went on, everyone kind of locked in again to that kind of thinking of, okay, if we lose the ball, everyone drop into that kind of shape, that hard to beat kind of block in front of the box. And before that, I think Kappa did really well to close angles off for the 2 early chances Brighton had. So I think you can see it across the team. They don't want to concede goals, and they're not just saying it. It's not just words.
Just for the benefit of those listening to read you the full quote, he said, "It's just the pride. We call it, the Emirates, our house, and nothing comes in our house, our goal. We take pride in keeping clean sheets, stopping shots and crosses because we don't want anyone scoring." It was a really good quote. And I remember Miles Lewis Skelly's first mix zone experience. And let's say he's grown since then in answering those questions. Ed, I'm most curious to kind of get your thoughts around, as I mentioned, the narrative from the perspective of someone, obviously myself and Art being covering Arsenal, but also being Arsenal fans as well, very publicly well known at this point. What have you made of kind of the talk around Arsenal in these opening games in comparison to, say, their title rivals? You know, we've seen tables of, you know, the Premier League without set piece goals being included. We've seen, you know, outlets getting kind of community noted as well with some of the stats that aren't quite right about Arsenal. So what have you made of all of this?
Well, I think it's something you're going to have to get used to this season, because it looks like it's going to be a front running season. And I was quite excited a couple of weeks ago. Do you remember when I was doing the stat about how many nights they've been top of the I keep mentioning it to you, don't I? We should get a clock.
Yes. Ed wants a running ticker in the Guardian about how many days Arsenal have been top without winning.
2004. I think it's close to 800. But no, these sort of things, you're going to have to get used to it. But I think, you know, it's all about answering the critics and, you know, like sort of beating the teams that you didn't beat last year. It's funny how they all came in a run, and it's just everything, all the sort of challenges, hurdles are being lined up and clearing each time. But I think it's just going to get more and more intense as the season goes on, and just, you know. But the thing that's just going to could make it a procession potentially, you know, like Liverpool last year was just, well, is this? But the difference is the defense, because like if they can keep this kind of record up, it's not going to be a contest, is it? You know, even say if Gyökeres doesn't have a great season, you know, he scores about 10 Premier League goals, probably be enough if Arsenal are in the mix of, you know, around that sort of that Chelsea team that, you know, I think it's, what's the record, 15 I think Premier League goals, and Arsenal are on course to beat that as it stands. And just to go on Timber as well, I think he possibly has been the best player so far. He's been absolutely unbelievable. I'm really impressed with him. I mean, just he's a proper leader on the pitch, and I think that's what Arsenal have now as well, compared to the past seasons. They have all these guys have grown up together, but they've been through these things. But there's so many leaders on the pitch now, which, you know, in that first season when they were runners up, you couldn't have said that it wasn't like that. They were all like young guys who. It's their first experience of it all, but now they're just leaders all over the pitch, aren't they? So that really bodes well. I think the media is going to build up, but Arsenal can make it a procession if they keep it up. But it's not going to be as easy as that. I don't think. Like we did a thing in the Guardian the other day. If anybody saw it, you know, is the title race over? Which clearly it isn't. I mean, it was a bit clickbaity for us, but I was just going to finish off by saying, I just think these 2 games coming up, and obviously Sparta Prague and the Champions League, are really massive going into the international break. They could, you know, if they could come away with I suppose even 2 wins and a draw, then Arsenal in such an amazing position going into the real tough bit of the season.
Absolutely. It'd be remiss of me. I want to go on to Burnley, but just very quickly, Art. I'd be remiss if I didn't get your thoughts on what you thought around kind of the noise and the hysteria about Arsenal being top and how it compares. So feel free to be as open as you like about it. But what are your feelings?
Well, to be fair, if I'm being really honest, every season there is something that comes up. and my usual response is not really to take notice of it.
Yeah.
I think Arsenal fans sometimes, because of how many Arsenal fans there are online, the reaction to what outlets do is almost what feeds into it even more. So I feel like sometimes, as a fan base, don't get drawn into it as much, and
Yeah.
people won't do it as often. So I know that's much easier said than done. But I think I've probably even mentioned to you before, Tom, like I don't go on Twitter as much as I used
Yeah.
to. I just kind of I find it so draining sometimes. So my, I guess, advice to other Arsenal fans would be not to put too much stock into, I guess, people or outlets you don't value that much, especially if they don't, I guess, watch Arsenal every week and kind of understand the nuances of what's going on game to game. So yeah, that's kind of what I'd say on that. And also on Ed's point on the defense, I also feel like in the last 2 seasons, what's really held them back is conceding stupid, silly goals, like goals from their own errors, and those have been cut out massively this year. So I think that's a real difference maker as well.
Yeah, and also the discipline, which is was a big thing about this sort of time last year, wasn't it? All the red cards.
Yeah.
Mm. Which
Although
Chelsea would love to have a record like
Rice
Arsenal
kicked the
now.
ball away the other day against Palace and didn't get booked.
Did he? I didn't see that. Oh wow, maybe the rules have changed, or maybe they've just got their head screwed on a bit tighter this season as opposed to last time when they certainly didn't. But it's just one of those things that, you know, referees obviously had taken such an kind of a focus last season, I felt, with Arsenal, but this season, even though there's been some controversial decisions, there's been some moments like the Gyökeres penalty or the non-penalty at Newcastle, which obviously Arsenal went on to win that game anyway, so it didn't really matter. There wasn't really too much from memory in the Liverpool-Man City games where Arsenal did drop points off the top of my head. I don't think.
No, I
so.
can't think of anything.
No,
but this is the thing, though, isn't it? In the title race, there's going to be, over the course of the season, there's going to be something that's going to happen. They're going to get some red. They probably will get maybe they won't get a red card, but you know. There's going to be some controversy there. They will concede a goal eventually. You know.
Yeah. Well, they should have done on Wednesday night. 100% they should. Yeah.
So it's just a matter of how they get over it. But this is what we're talking. They've got this experience now of kind of everything's gone wrong that could go wrong. So you'd hope that they can use that now to not let it worry them when there is a bit of a blip.
Yeah, Scott Parker has already done his press conference. He did it on Thursday. He said an interesting quote. He was asked kind of about Arsenal's reliance on set piece, and he said, "I'm not sure I see it like that. When I'm watching them, to be honest with you, I see a fluid team. I see an unbelievably well-coached team, a team that solves situations. This is definitely not a team that just relies on set plays. And now, obviously, at the start of the season, there's been key moments where they've got wins from set plays, but this is a well-oiled team and a functional team that are very fluid in the way that they play. And defensively is a foundation. It was probably something we lived by last year, and really it gives you a bedrock that can certainly be formed. So yeah, obviously Burnley, I think it was 100+ points they got last season as they got promoted from the Championship, and defensively they were very good in that league. Unfortunately, that's not necessarily been the same case in the Premier League, but that is the difference between the two divisions at the moment. We'll finish the show just with some kind of brief words on Burnley from each of you, and just how you feel the game might go, and some predictions, if you will, as well. So Ed, we'll start with you.
I think it's going to be a tricky game, actually. I think, especially at home, they've got a very good record. You say defensively, it's not been as easy for them in the Premier League, but it's still solid and be hard to break down. I think it's the sort of game that Arsenal may struggle in, actually, and it's the sort of game where it would be great from an Arsenal point of view if Gyökeres could just nick a 1-0 win for them with a scrappy goal, or actually maybe from his point of view a better goal than the two he scored against Atletico, because they were sort of confidence boosters.
There was fortuitousness to them.
But he could do with lashing one in, or on the volley or something like that. I think it'll be let's say 1-0 to the Arsenal.
Yep, classic scoreline. Art, what do you think?
Yeah, similar to Ed, I do feel like it would be a tricky game, especially with them playing their way into confidence. 2 wins in their last 2 games. But also, when you look at Liverpool's game against them, they gave Liverpool a real game, and it took a stupid, stupid handball for Liverpool to win that game. And I think they've scored in most of their games too.
Yes.
So I think they'll give Arsenal a real go. But I do feel like Arsenal will still win. I think it'll be 2 to Arsenal. And then I'm just trying to figure out whether they'll keep another clean sheet or not.
I mean, in terms of the stats, Burnley have scored 12 goals this season, which is the most of any in the bottom 7. But they've conceded 17, which is the 3rd worst tally of any team so far.
Ooh, do I think they'll score? No, I'll go 2-0. I'll go 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, you're hedging your bets
on them not scoring it just because Arsenal. It's just incredible. It's unbelievable defense, isn't it? I mean, those stats is whoever does score next are going to really celebrate, aren't they?
Yeah, I do not want to be there for that celebration. That's for sure. I'm not going to be at Sunderland. Maybe that will happen there. But yeah, 1 shot conceded on target in their last 3 league games. They're the first team in English top flight history to win 6 games in a month and not concede a single goal, which is quite an incredible stat as well. And I think it is still now, it's over 100 games since they last conceded more than 2 goals in a single game, which was that 4-3 game against Luton. So yeah, quite the impressive statistic indeed. Art and Ed, thank you so much for your time this evening / this morning, as when this is going out. Ed, do you want to give a shout out to anything that you've got coming out, anything you want to plug in this final moment of the pod?
Well, I just feel like I should give my Twitter handle, because I'm just down as Ed on the screen.
you can decide to change that, you know.
I don't think that's going to take you to any of my work if you type that in. You never know, but so it's Ed_Aarons is my Twitter handle.
There you go.
RONS. There you go. He's got it. Oh, thanks. That was my fault, because that's why I put in the thing at the start. But yeah, no. Looking forward to Prague next week, though. It should be a really good trip, and yeah, hopefully for Arsenal's point of view, get another clean sheet, another win.
I think all 3 of us are on that trip.
Yeah.
Prague, yeah, so it should be a good one. Art, yourself, obviously, don't reveal the. You like playing a lot of Football Manager recently. I think you've got a feature out on that as well.
Yeah. So a review of Football Manager has just gone out for people who want to know what I think before they read it. I think a lot of the criticism has been a bit overblown.
You and Benji were having a few words on.
But you can read the full thing on The Athletic, and yeah, hopefully over the weekend I may have something else for you guys before the Slavia Prague game, but yeah, I'll keep quiet about that for now.
We'll have to wait and see. Teasing. Love it. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Of course, if you want to get updates from Mikel Arteta's press conference, you can do so on the Football.London website. There'll be, of course, some features in the Mirror about that as well, and coverage, of course, on the Mirror, the Football at London, the Guardian, and the Athletic over the course of the weekend as well. So plenty for you to get your teeth sunk into. Thank you for listening. Do drop a like and subscribe and all the usual YouTube-y stuff. And I'll be back with you tomorrow morning, bright and early, for another pre-recorded episode, because it is an early trip up to Turf Moor on Saturday with some of our listeners, which we're going to be previewing the show, or rather the game, on the show as well. So stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful, and as always, up the Arsenal.